Let's go far away enough here. Hello, I'm Jashikins, and welcome to another episode of Jash Reads. Tonight's video will be covering... Okay. I forgot why I said 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back on track. Hello, I'm Jashikins, and welcome to another episode of Jash Reads. Tonight we will be reading more of Animorphs number 10, The Android, by K.A. Applegate. And as always, this video is not intended for kids. Instead, this video is intended for adults who are discovering or rediscovering the joy that is Animorphs. And I'm sorry about the late start, but I started looking something up, and once I started looking something up, I can't stop myself until I'm like, okay, I'm satisfied. That's one reason when I write, I really like to hold back on researching until I absolutely have to, because I'll be like, okay, I'll cover this one thing, and suddenly I'm reading some essay on something completely different. And if I researched as much as I probably should, I would get nothing done. Okay, so let's get started. We rode the fake basement back up, leaving the eerie golden world of dogs behind. So, do we have a deal? Erek asked. You'll help us get the Pemalite crystal, and then we'll fight alongside you to defeat the Yerks. Sounds good to me, I said quickly. Unless anyone has any objection, Jake started to say. That's when Cassie interrupted. Erek, let us talk it over. It's a big decision. I was surprised, but not as surprised as Jake was. Then we heard a noise coming from directly above us. Roar! Oh man, I said. I knew that sound. We all knew that sound. Rachel, Cassie said under her breath. We were down there a long time, Jake said. Erek, I think a friend of ours may have come in to rescue us. Erek shrugged. I don't think it's going to be a problem. You don't know our friend, I said. The basement had settled back into its normal place. I tore up the stairway. Rachel! Chill! I burst back into the utterly normal kitchen and raced into the utterly normal living room. The front door of the house had been ripped off its hinges. The couch was thrown against one wall. And there, in the middle of the room, standing so tall its head scraped the ceiling, was a full-grown grizzly bear. Rachel roared in rage and frustration. Frustration, see, because the Chi who passed as Erek's father had her in a full Nelson. His human holograph arms were wrapped around the unbelievably massive shoulders of the grizzly, and he was actually holding the great bear still. He had pinned a grizzly so powerful it could literally turn a toy Yoda into an aluminum can. Okay, now I've seen everything, I said. You Chi are very strong, Axe commented. This was the understatement of all time. Where have you been? Rachel demanded. I waited as long as I could. I figured you were dead or something. And if you don't have a good explanation, you will be dead. Oh, we have a story, all right, Cassie said. Rachel had calmed down and stopped roaring when she saw us. Now that she slowly released her, and she began to change back out of morph. Jake looked embarrassed and started to pull the couch back down. Erek, this is our friend Rachel. It was smart of you to keep a reserve, Erek commented. To Rachel, he said, I hope you weren't hurt. How come you can wrestle a grizzly if you have to be non-violent? I asked Erek. Of course. My father here knew she was not a true bear, and he only held on to her. He did not destroy her. If Rachel had been strong enough to win, my father would have had no choice but to allow himself to be destroyed. I laughed. I see why you want to change that. I expected Erek to agree. Instead, he looked a little sad. Yes, he said. Just that one word. We started to leave. I let the others get a few steps ahead of me. I pulled Erek over. Hey, Erek, you were at my mom's funeral. I don't think I said thanks at the time. Erek looked away and bit his lip. Marco, there's something I have to tell you. I think I already know. My mother isn't dead. She's a controller. She's Fisher 1. It was Erek's turn to be impressed. You guys have learned a lot. I shrugged. Is that why you were at the funeral? Did you know? Erek nodded. I knew. I might have been able to save her if I met his gaze. Too late to save her, I said. But payback is going to be very painful for those filthy slugs. On the way home, we filled Rachel and Tobias in on what had happened. It took a while. We were back at Cassie's barn before we were done. I say do it, Rachel said. That she guy held on to me like I was a baby. They're strong. They have technology. We don't. They've already penetrated the sharing. They would double our chances. End of story. No, not in the story, Cassie said, contradicting her friend. What right do we have to interfere and destroy the thousands of years of peace this species has had? Didn't you hear Maria? No chi has ever taken another life. You want them to be sane 1,000 years from now that no chi ever took a life till we made them killers? I rounded on her, angry. What I don't want 1,000 years from now is for people to be saying, too bad about the humans. They ended up as dead as the Bamalites. Axe? Jake asked. You haven't said much. Axe was in human morph, of course, since we were in the barn. As you know, we Andalites are not supposed to interfere in the lives of other species. I'm already breaking that law with you, and I am proud to be breaking that law in this case. But the chi, it makes a funny sound, doesn't it? Chi! He smiled with his human mouth, then grew serious again. The chi are a different species, older than Andalites. I feel badly helping another species to become violent. Rachel said, "Look, no one likes violence, all right? But we didn't ask for this war with the Yerks. When the bad guys come after you, when they start the violence, they leave you no choice. Fight or die. Fight or die." I agreed. "And you want proof? Look at the Pemlites. They didn't fight. They died. All gone. No more. Scratch a whole species. Now their essence, whatever that means, is stuck inside dogs, and their robots feed them extra kibble. Yippee. That worked out real well for them. And even that's better off than we'll be if we lose to the Yerks." Law of the jungle, Rachel said. "You eat or you get eaten." "Maybe so," Tobias said, speaking up for the first time. "But still, wouldn't it be nice if that wasn't the law?" "How can you take that attitude?" I demanded. "You're a predator. You know how it is." "Yes, I know exactly how it is. That doesn't mean I like it. Look, the Pemlites were wiped out. Maybe because they didn't fight. Maybe they'd have lost even if they had fought. We'll never know. But the Chi have lived for thousands of years. I know they're androids, but they're a species too. They've survived without killing. Doesn't something about that make you jealous? Don't you wish we could say the same? Don't you wish Homo sapiens could face the universe and honestly say, we do not kill, we don't enslave, we don't make war? I don't make the rules," I said. "I didn't start this war. Humans didn't start this war. Look, I don't want to make this personal, but I know the name Madcom. My dad is involved in some work with them. And the other day, Tom," I shot a glance at Jake, "his brother was on me to come to the sharing and bring my father. The sharing is targeting my dad. And now we know why. So for me, it's simple. If we take this Pemlite crystal, maybe my dad isn't involved with Madcom anymore. And maybe the Yerks find someone else to invest." No one had an answer to that. I knew they wouldn't. Cassie walked down to the far end of the barn and came carrying a small cage. Total darkness, can't touch walls, floor, or ceiling, and you have to travel through a room strung with sensitive wires you can't even see. She held up the cage. "Meet the animal that can do all that." It's no larger than a small rat with its leathery wings folded back. "Cool," I said. "First I'm Spider-Man, now I get to be Batman." And that's the end of that lovely, happy chapter where nothing at all goes wrong. Ah, shit. On. I actually remembered the question I posed at the end of last video about whether or not you agree with giving Chi, the ability to kill. And I sort of forgot that in this chapter, it really does cover it. Marco, of course, is like, hey, I have to. It's for him, there is no choice because his dad's involved. Although I do think that even if his dad wasn't involved, he would still be very pro giving Chi the ability to kill because he can see the clear line from A to B. And so he'd be like, yeah, more allies, yeah. It's and to him the whole morality doesn't really affect him as much, and that's where Cassie comes in. Cassie is this moral center. And she brings up the fact that, hey, this doesn't seem right, guys. We're just really quickly changing this whole social structure of a society that has existed for thousands upon thousands of years. I think, guys, we should know. And God, I do think, yeah, Jake was very, yeah, has to do that. Yeah, like Jake's the leader, of course. He was surprised when Cassie was like, hey, guys, wait a minute. Then Rachel, the gung ho fighter, and I thought her lines of saying, hey, we didn't start this fight, when someone attacks you, you have to attack back. This time reading it through, I sort of read it as Rachel rationalizing her bloodlust to herself, because she does have this continuous war of loving the war and being afraid of how much she loves the war. So I think it's really what that her little speech is just trying to rationalize her bloodlust as, okay, nothing's really wrong. Like, she's having this whole therapeutic conversation with herself without the others knowing, except Cassie, because Cassie knows shit. And there's Tobias, who is the predator that has to kill to live on a daily basis. And so Marco's sort of surprised, like, really? What did you have for breakfast, Tobias? What did you have for breakfast? And Tobias brings up a good point. He's only a predator because he has to be. Like, he has no real choice there. He tried living as a pet hawk, and that did not work out well. And so he didn't want to make his first kill. It took him a while to grow comfortable. So, of course he'd be the one to go, listen, I'm a predator. And I'm just like, but what if that wasn't the way? And Axis's opinion is sort of interesting. Okay, I'm go. And sorry, I get distracted by the stuff in the live chat. I'm going to answer in you a moment. But Axe is one of the more interesting because, God, actually, I'm going to answer these questions first so I have time to get my thoughts in order. Okay, so Umbra's Gift has said, I get what Cassie is trying to say, but I feel like she could at least be more empathetic to Marco. He's at risk of his father being enslaved, and he's already lost his mother. Even worse, if he gets caught, all of them are doomed. At this point, until he says near the end of the chapter about what's going on, only Jake is aware of the Yerk's interest in Marco's dad. At this, when Cassie was giving her speech, she's not aware that Marco's dad is involved. So yeah. Yay, someone thinks I have a good point. Yay. Okay, with Axe, he's interesting because his whole character arc throughout the series is him trying to adjust to living on Earth without, any other Andalites and where his loyalties lie. And so it's very interesting because he sort of is experiencing what Erek and some of the other Chi want of let's break the rules that we've had for a long time. I don't know, it might be that Axe is a little ashamed of his race. I think this was deciphering Axe in this chapter would actually require me to actually write and edit because I don't think I could do my thoughts justice with, just reading without a script. And finally, as this video is going on a little too long now, I did like the conversation that Erek had with Marco about being at the funeral. And throughout this book so far, when Erek is involved, we can see this whole I want things to change. I want to be stronger. I want to actually be able to fight back. But when actually right before the funeral talk, when Erek just said yes, it does seem like he's having some doubts himself. Like he's sort of rushing into it. I think Cassie had a point that Erek is rushing into it. And actually, stealing the Pemlite crystal doesn't require the Chi to reprogram themselves. So, okay, the question. Let's see. Good question. Good, thoughtful question of which point of view do you agree with? Jake, Cassie, Marco, Rachel, Tobias, or Axe? And do you think that Marco's opinion on whether or not they should help Erek change if his father wasn't involved? Please comment down below with that and anything else you noticed about this chapter. And thank you, Umbra's Gift, for engaging me. And let's see. Please like this video if you like dogs or birds. If I could have a dog, I would. I just don't have the space or the money, and I currently have 4 birds, which none of them are really trained. None of them will sit on my shoulder. My cockatiel Jor is just getting a little more hand-friendly. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel because I will not just be reading this book, but I will be reading all the books in the Animorphs series. And if this video interested you and you want to now read Animorphs number 10, everywhere I post this video, there will be a link to where you can buy your very own copy of Animorphs number 10, The Android by K.A. Applegate, in whatever format you want to. I think the link also includes a version for Audible. So for any of you who don't have the time to sit down and read, there's the way. And yeah. Okay, I just had to remind myself if there was actually an Audible version of this book, and there is. So I hope everyone stays safe, and I'll see you Friday for everyone who just watches the Animorphs dramatic readings. And for anyone who's going to join, I can't speak. And for anyone who wants to join me on Wednesday, I will be doing a review of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the Hunger Games prequel. It will be a spoiler-filled review, so If you haven't read the book and don't like spoilers, read the book beforehand. And until next video, goodbye.